You're listening to Remotely One, a podcast that educates, entertains, and inspires you to take your life back from the office commute. I'm Rick, a former beer rep who left the warehouse to become a voice actor and digital creator.
And I'm Kaleem, a remote work advocate and consultant. We're going to speak with some of the top professionals who have managed to avoid the commute as they share stories from the most inspiring to the most comical, all while working remotely.
Man, this sounds awesome. Let's clock in.
Can't believe it, though. 100 episodes, dude.
Jesus Christ, I know it.
You've been working for so long and so hard down at the docks.
I'm going to go to the pub later and pick myself up a harbor hog. Well.
Been laying pipe with my uncle over at the wood shop, bub.
Oh, man.
Oh, man, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah, likewise. It's been too long. We got to do this. I wish we could do this more often.
You know, there's a phrase that I've been told before. Shout out to my boy, Otis. Something about the phrase tickle shit. You know, it's almost a mix between bubble guts and laughing hysterically. So you have the tickle shit.
Indeed.
And I feel like that's what I have today, Rick.
You do. You know, you do.
I'm super happy.
Welcome back to Remotely One. I am your co-host, Rick Haney, joined by my esteemed colleague, Kaleem Clarkson, and today we're celebrating our 100th episode. What do you think of that, Kaleem?
Holy shit, Rick!
Triple digits!
100 episodes. 100 episodes. Like I said, I have the tickle shits. I can't believe we started the show 3 years ago. Did you ever think that we would hit 100, bro?
You know, honestly, I don't know what to think. I can tell you that I cannot believe that we've come this far. Just thinking about all the amazing conversations that we've had with our guests, and you want to know what's really crazy?
What's that, bro? What's crazy, bro? What's crazy, man? What's happening?
Well, thanks for asking. I'll tell you. All of our hard work has been recognized as we were just awarded Podcasters of the Year by Crossover, the world's largest recruiter of full-time remote jobs. I did not see that coming. How about you?
What? Come on, Crossover. That's what we're talking about, baby, bro. That first call I made to you, man, just reminiscent. We hadn't spoken to each other in 20 years, and I took a shot, and I called you out of the blue. For real, I don't even think you knew anything about remote work. You're like a deer in the headlights, bro. You're like a deer in the headlights. Like,
well, you know, it's funny. Like, I looking down at my phone, I'm like, oh, what's he doing calling me? Something must be up. I wonder who died, right?
Right. That's seriously.
Did we lose another football coach? What's going on here? And, you know, the first thing I thought of when we got into the conversation, you were talking about remote work. And I'm like, bro, this guy's going to have me scouring Craigslist ads and stuffing envelopes by the end of the day. And like, next thing I know, I'm going to be selling my body in the private forums, you know? I was like,
you want a remote job, sir?
Yes.
You want a remote job?
It's
Selling
remote work. Remote work. I had no idea what the word even meant, you know, and I was terrified. And we got into this and we started talking to these high-level professionals, and I realized that just the basic element is we all have these stories to tell. And these stories are what make remote work so much more human than I could have possibly imagined. So after a few episodes, I realized it was like, that was it. This was the thing. It was about telling the stories.
Telling the stories. Remember we had that in the promo.
The stories.
I mean, isn't it insane that two bubs from Bangor, Maine, dude?
Yes, sir.
Created, and we sustained a show for 100 episodes, and then, just out of nowhere, recognized as Podcasters of the Year by a recruiting firm that has over 8 million followers. Bro, wow.
I mean, at this point, there is nothing else to say but wow. Yeah. Wowie, wow. So thank you. Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been a wild ride. I hope we can continue for another 100 episodes. We'll see what the future holds. But
let's see what the future holds.
So everybody out there, again, thank you. And since you know how to find us, do us a huge favor. Go to ratethispodcast.com/remotely1 and just leave us a review. We'll ask that in every episode. We're not tired of asking it because you guys always return the favor. So again, ratethispodcast.com/remotely one. And if you could do that for us, we would be ever so thankful. Since 2015, Remotely One is one of the largest communities of remote work professionals with over 3,500 Slack members and 5,000 email subscribers. And it's free to join. So go to check it out at remotelyone.com. And with that out of the way, tell us a little bit, Kaleem, about your most favorite memorable episode.
Well, sir, I can't say my most favorite episode. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like our children. We love them all, man. We love them all.
Well, my favorite, I mean, what sticks out in your mind? What's memorable? What's memorable?
Yes. So, again, guests, we loved you all. Like all
every one of you.
And that's a really good question. So many great guests. But I'm going to have to go with my celebrity crush. The man, the myth, the legend, Jack Nillies. And for those who do not know who Jack is, Jack coined the term telework in 1967. And he's a former rocket engineer that worked on the Apollo mission. When he replied, bro, when he replied and said yes, first off, I thought there was no way he was going to reply. And again, back to the phrase that we were talking about earlier, when he replied, the tickle shits hit me hard, dude. Tickle shits hit me hard. But you know, let's take a look at what he had to say. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
Sure.
This actually all started when I was still a rocket scientist designing space reconnaissance systems. I was getting kind of bored by this, same old thing all the time. So I started to look around, find out some ways that we could use all our nifty technology for work in the, on the ground. And I was talking to a urban planner one day, and he said to me, if you guys can put man on the moon, I said, yeah, I had something to do with that. He says, why can't you do something about traffic?
I mean, it's a valid question.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And Jack, what year is this?
This was 1970.
Wow.
1970. And that changed my career.
So, man, Jack Nillis, man. I mean, can you imagine?
That was such a killer. I mean, I had so many questions for the guy. And as I recall, I was both flustered and having technical issues that entire episode. So I was like, the whole time, right? But I mean,
crazy to think that, like, he just casually threw out he was a rocket scientist, casually threw out he worked on the Apollo mission. Yeah. And then the fact that somebody asked him, yo, if you can put a man on the moon, why can't you figure out remote work? And he's still getting it done. I
mean, that was so crazy. Just talking to a brilliant mind, like, you're a brilliant mind when you get bored as a rocket scientist. I mean, he literally said, I was looking for something else to do, Didn't he say that?
Yeah. I was looking for something else to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the irony of being bored as a rocket scientist really kind of struck a chord there, but I don't know.
The grandfather of telework, sir, I feel like we had the number one person to get in this world. He's 90. I believe he's over 90 years old. Just what a great feeling. So how about you, Rick? What's an episode that kind of sticks out to you a little bit?
I knew this was coming. And, as hard as it is to make this decision, in the moment, I'm recalling our conversation with Brian Elliott when he said time matters more than space. Think about, like, we've gone from 1967 to 2024. That's a lot of changes occurring in that window. Employees, they went from, being dispensable resources to being valued as people who can lead their organization. And I think Brian lays it out perfectly when he said time matters more than place, in that placing value on people's time, right, by not burdening their schedules, and that time matters more than one location. Roll the clip. He could say it better than I could.
Let's roll it.
The other side that showed up in the research right away that people only started paying attention to even in the last year is time matters more than place. Putting some constraints in your schedule so that 9 to 5, 5 days a week can't be jam-packed full of meetings, or meetings can't just be dropped, on your calendar anywhere in there to turn your calendar into Swiss cheese. It's much more important to people that they've got control over their calendar. That shows up in the research in terms of people's preferences, but it also shows up in terms of the impact. So if I give people on my team location flexibility, if I give them the ability to not have to come into an office 5 days a week, I get about an 8% boost on productivity, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's about 3 hours a week, right? And 3 hours a week back of productive time is a good thing. If I give people schedule flexibility, if I put some limits on that 9 to 5, 5 days a week, I get a 39% boost in productivity scores.
And there he said it. I mean, I love Brian, man. The fact that he was with Slack's Future Forum and is now doing his own thing, but like, to me, giving people location flexibility, it like the stats that he was showing there are crazy. It's like, yes, providing people location flexibility gives you 8% increase in productivity, but thinking about the scheduling of your time, bro, 39% increase of productivity if you give them the ability to work when. That's crazy shit, man. It's crazy shit.
Yeah, no, I agreed. I mean, the research of remote work has been absolutely fascinating. When you think about what we're hearing from the media versus what we're hearing from researchers, right? It's completely night and day. And Dr. Nick Bloom comes to mind, speaking of which.
So just based on your research and your thoughts, what are leaders telling you as to like why they want their people back into the office? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, partly the media, to be honest, the media misrepresents a little bit as to what's happening. It sells many more newspapers and many more clicks to have some extreme story like, exec X tells everyone to, haul their asses back in. In the aggregate data, the number of days that Americans are working from home is about 25% and has been flat at that level since late 2022. So in the sense it's a media narrative, for every company that's reported in the news as hauling people back into the office, there are other companies that don't get picked up or that are saying to save money, we're closing offices down altogether.
When you think about this, man, not only did we have the godfather on of telework, but I can't believe we had one of the leading researchers in the world on the show. It's just amazing. And the reality even today is that, man, the negative headlines always sell more and they're always getting more clicks. And he said it perfectly that for every major headline that you hear, right, there's a company that has a lot of remote work, right? Like, so for every headline you're hearing, there's a company we don't hear about that's fully remote. And it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that was such an engaging and quite rewarding conversation. I learned so much about not only Dr. Nick Bloom, but the research that is behind everything that we've been talking about. And we also learned a little bit about President Obama as a person, how he operates. Remember that?
I do remember that. Let's how does President Obama operate? Let's roll the clip. One thing about President Obama, like you got a chance to meet him. What was that in context of?
In the Working Family Summit in 2014.
Okay.
He was astoundingly impressive in a way that isn't obvious on TV. There were like 15 of us in the room, basically 14 CEOs and me. But he went around the room and he knew something about everyone, including me. Now, clearly he's never heard of me before he's met me, and he must have read his briefing. But for someone to have read a briefing about 15 different people, memorized it, and then used it to go around, I was like, wow, this guy must be doing meetings like this hour and hour off. He has like some kind of encyclopedic memory.
What do you smell like, man? Did you get a chance to smell him?
I didn't smell.
I was hoping that you were going to say he smelled like cocoa butter. Yep. He did. He had a cocoa butter scent. I was hoping you were going to say that. Oh, Dr. Bloom, he was, what was smart about that, Rick? He knew not to respond to that.
Oh, he deflected hard. I mean, he didn't even engage, which was very smart of him. It's hard to be on his level and then have to communicate with people like us. I'll be honest.
Imagine if he was just like, he did have a scent of cocoa butter. And it's just like the way, his accent was great. But
it's quite funny you mentioned, because I remember smelling cocoa butter. cocoa butter. That's one of the reasons why I've always loved this show. Right from the beginning, we're engaged in a serious discussion, and then Kaleem just derails it completely with a ridiculous question about how the president smells. I mean, you just never know what you're going to get.
It's true. It's true. Oh, man. So we've had all of these researchers on, but what I've always found amazing from all of this, Rick, is like, no matter how much research that you have, it still doesn't change the opinions of CEO. And it just reminds me of like when Kate Lister interviewed the VP of HR from Netflix. You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember it. And it's funny because what I remember most is the guy just doesn't want to listen to her. He was not interested in anything she had to say.
I got to interview the head of HR for Netflix the morning after Reed Hastings announced that no good will ever come out of remote work, right? Before that little pre-conversation, I said, can I ask you about that? I mean, is that fair game? And she said, yeah. She said, I mean, bottom line is he thought everybody felt like he did. Everybody wanted to be back in the office. Everybody loved this environment, and it just wasn't true. And they could show him surveys and show him that 90% wanted to continue to work from home, and he just had a closed mind on it. So I show them the evidence, I give them the examples, and then I show them there's plenty of things to be worried about, but those are the wrong things. And so let's focus on what the right things that you should be worrying about.
That's fascinating. I never once thought about like why you would want to take on a client that's saying no. Rick, for me, that clip, it just hits home that like when she says no, the CEO says no good will ever come from it. It's funny. And then like everyone wants to be back in the office. That's what I've been told. Talk about just being hard-headed. You know what I'm saying? Just like talk about like just not giving a shit or not giving a shit, not even listening.
It's always been done this way, see? We're going to keep doing it.
We're going to keep doing it. But that comment to me really kind of leads me to this idea of just mindset. No matter how much information that they've been provided, their mind was set in one way, and they're hardwired. And just like, I remember Dr. Kelly Monahan from Upworks Research Institute talking about mindset. You remember Dr. Monahan?
I do. That conversation had a profound impact on me. But the one thing I remember the most about it is the mindset of butts in seats, right? We've been conditioned to value this office hierarchy, paying your dues. But the new idea is that a rising tide lifts all boats.
Mindsets are so hard to change. How we've defined success, especially in corporations and as Americans, has revolved around that corner office, rising up the hierarchical chain. Once you get to that point, it's really hard as a leader to rewrite the rules of work, of how success is formed. And in many ways, you feel like you've earned your stripes and badges to earn that way. And you want other people to work the same way and have that same model of success. There's been even another TED Talk by this wonderful woman who talks about the super chickens. You put a bunch of high performers together, they end up pecking each other to death. You put together a bunch of mediocre performers and they tend to actually all rise together. We're beginning to rewrite the rules of management and leadership and what performance looks like within organizations. But we're still very much hardwired to butts in seats, long hours, quantity over quality, and I need to rise up the hierarchical chain to feel success.
I just love Kelly so much. She was fun to talk to, man.
That was a great discussion.
It really was. She just had so much knowledge too, like from doing research in multiple places. And, what she said made a lot of sense to me in that moment because I hadn't really thought about the managers' positions in all of these situations. But like, these managers paid their dues with butts in seats. But then, during the pandemic, while we're working, they were asked to rewrite how we're working, although they've never experienced that type of success. You know what I mean? Like, although they've never experienced success being fully remote. And really, the challenge that people have is how can I break through that type of mindset? And I just remember, do you remember Sasha from Clorox?
Sasha O'Connor. Yeah. She worked for Clorox.
Yeah.
That was a great conversation. I I remember her talking specifically. I mean, she goes back to like 2010 when she took it upon herself to show and prove to her manager that she could manage a team remotely, despite all of the professional conditions that she was given as a result of her proposal.
I asked the question, could I keep my job with Clorox but move 3,000 miles away? And that was back in 2010.
Yes, Sasha, 2010. OG, we have OGs.
The good news was I had a good relationship with the chief marketing officer, and he said, okay, you can be an experiment. Let's see if you can do your job and lead your teams from the opposite coast of the United States. At the time, it was about retention, but it did come with some caveats. So I was told, okay, you can move and do the job from Philly, but you'll never get promoted to director level or above because you have to be here at headquarters for that. They said you will never get to work on some businesses or in some roles because those roles must be here at headquarters. In my head, I was just going like, just get me back to Philly, but I'll show you.
Another thing that I just really, really enjoyed about interviewing all of these crazy successful people, man, is that they're just people, and they're down to earth. And what's the best thing about Sasha, Rick, is the moment she said she was from Philly, you happen to go right into rapping the theme song from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh yeah, it took right off.
So good. It was so good.
I'm from a suburb of Philadelphia, western suburb, so very close to where I am right now.
Philadelphia, born and raised.
Yes.
From the playgrounds where I spent most of my days.
Chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool.
Shooting some b-ball.
Outside of school.
Yes! Oh, the Fresh Prince. That was pretty good.
I have never rapped on a podcast before. I can tell you that.
I can assure you I have not either. Oh, man, that was...
I didn't get it right either, bro. I didn't get it right. But
that's not the way I remembered it, but it still went good.
It doesn't matter. Oh, what a great sport. What a just good human being.
Yeah, I mean that was fun. We had a lot of laughs over that, but it's really poignant if you pull back a little bit and you consider that theme song really kind of fits her story of moving from one location to another.
Back to Philly, in fact.
She went back to Philly from where? Right. San Francisco, I think.
On the left coast.
Yeah, vastly different demographics. And she had to make that move considering that her, the possibility of her pay changing. And so that kind of brings to mind the conversation we had around pay equity with Job Vandervoort from remote.com.
Bro, I was so nervous. Like, so I get nervous on a lot of our interviews.
Yeah. But
it's not every day, Rick, that you get to speak to a founder that has raised $500 million. Like remote.com raised 500 million. And one of the biggest topics in remote work is whether you should pay people based on a role that they're doing, or if you should pay people based on the location.
As an employer, you have not the choice to say, I'm going to pay independently of location. You have the choice to say, where am I going to hire from? Do I want to hire from everywhere? Because if I want to hire from everywhere, I have to be able to pay top of market, right? If I'm going to hire somebody in San Francisco, I will have to pay top of market regardless. And if I also want to hire then somebody in Portugal, why would I then pay them 4 times more than would already be amazing salary for them? Yes, I can literally take any talent out of the company, but I have a limited amount of money as an employer because it's a business. And so I'm not an advocate for either model. I just think it's a market.
You're a genius. That's called the block and bridge. You are going to be a politician, sir. It's a great answer, and I love it.
But I'll tell you this. We have, of course, a lot of data on it. Nobody pays independent of location.
Really?
It's funny. I mean, of course, again, another episode of, laughs and jabs. But I love the fact that you called him out on not taking a position. And in the same breath, he goes on about how they have data that proves almost every company pays by location. I mean, he's so smooth, right? I guess you could do that when you got 500 million coming in.
Yeah, you have to know how to talk if you're gonna pull that out. But yeah, it was a really good time, man. When we started the show, I remember having during that conversation, I was like, Rick, man, like I want to have a fun podcast, and we were going back and forth, and we are like, it's about the stories of remote work to help humanize it a bit, because like we're all behind these screens, we want to humanize it. And then we just started recording episodes, and it was fun. It was cool. We were feeling it out. We were asking the question at the end. But one year, I think it was after we've been doing it for over a year or some change, maybe a year and a half. And you were like, you pitch this idea. You're like, hey, what if we created a new segment? And I was like, all right, tell me more, sir. Tell me more. And you were like, so we've been hearing from all of these top level executives and top level researchers. Wouldn't it be great to have like these really short episodes of the frontline workers, the individual contributors that are just doing the work? And all they did was just come on and tell us the most fucking ridiculous stories.
Yeah.
And you were like, I think we asked them the questions. We asked each person to come on and tell us the most comical or inspirational story they had while working remotely. And I remember you came up with the name. It was like, we'll call it Not Safe for Remote Work. Fucking great idea. Super fun, bro.
Yeah, I I wasn't sure where that was going to go. And I remember our first one, she was brilliant, awesome personality, just a really awesome girl. And she made a comment about, oh no, we were talking about comments of her
yes,
her
being
reels,
online.
Right? Yeah,
yes,
being
being online. Like what happens,
Yeah.
the people love to hate in the comments.
Yeah, the people are hating, and she's a pretty girl, and
definitely
talking
pretty
about
good,
like,
mm-hmm.
Somebody said that she needed Botox, and I'm like, oh yeah, hey, somebody told me I look like a dead guy in a coffin.
Let's hear it.
Okay, well, I'll say this, that I've learned from social media comments that I'm a bit older than some of the other video posters and accounts. And so, have you ever I did have gotten the comment, you could use Botox. But the internet's too kind. The internet's so kind. But you know what? I lean into that. Yeah.
Can I hit the pause button real quick?
Yeah.
Because just about 2 weeks ago, I was the sweaty guy in the coffin on one of our episodes. What was it, TikTok, Kaleem? So I know exactly what you're talking about.
The sweaty guy in the coffin. No, Ashley, you do not need Botox at all. And bro, that comment, I don't know why I laugh so hard at someone making fun of you, but we make fun of ourselves so much. This person has no idea that was the best comment that we've had on any of our shows forever. And we just, I love to go back and look at that comment, man.
It was great. It inspired me to put a fan in my recording booth.
My gosh. Another story that I just love was we were talking to, I think her name was Becky. And
Becky Jones.
Becky Jones, that's right.
Yeah.
She was talking about this time she had to take a call in a restaurant, right? Is that what she was saying?
She was making a pitch at a restaurant. She was in a cafe. And she had an important meeting with an exec board on something.
Yeah.
And then all hell broke loose.
Let's see if she had this. Love this.
The parent had got up to go, and I could see her walking, so she must have gone to get another coffee.
Wait, so how old was this kid, do you think?
Probably about 3, 4.
Oh no.
And then the next minute you just see a hand.
Oh my God.
And this kid is literally covered in cake, and he just wants to be on the call. You see a little face pop up, and he's like, this. So I was like, oh no. I just want to die. No. This kid is literally all over me, and I'm trying desperately to keep it together. So I'm like, You want to make it
She
so
just
casual.
slowly wiped for all our listeners.
Oh my God.
All our listeners, she just put her hand and slowly wiped it off as she's presenting. Such a good time.
Can you imagine the discomfort in making pitching a proposal over a Zoom call, and then some little shit at the table next to you just covers your face with frosting?
Oh man, that is great, man. That is great.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of these stories have come out, and hopefully more and more will continue to present themselves. But we were talking to Kristen Bass this one time, and it was like a horror movie in the middle of the day.
So I, naturally being myself, reach behind my office door and pull out my home defense shotgun and just rack it. I'm like, who the hell is in my house?
And this is on camera?
Like, all right.
Do you have this on camera?
So my camera's facing this way and I'm going this way, so you can hear it.
Oh.
You can hear the shotgun. You can hear me talking to Duke, and I'm like, I don't even care what's going on camera at this point. I don't care.
Life.
So,
Oh my God.
I'm sitting there and I can hear people laughing because at this point it's like, what the hell is going on?
Click, click, boom.
Luckily, no shots went off. Duke finally decides to kind of meander through the house, and I go, there's no climax to the story. The door just blew open from the wind, scared the absolute hell out of me, and I'm walking through my house with a shotgun like, am I about to hit somebody with this?
Jeez, you got to be careful, bro. You can't be rolling in somebody's house, especially Krista. She could cha.
She was also the first woman in history to get a raise over a Zoom call because she had a shotgun in her hand.
Oh, and then of course, Jamie Jackson, her.
Oh, she was so funny.
Oh, she was so good. Her and Ashley, and another colleague of theirs run a podcast called Humorous Resources, so check it out. But when you have kids, man, and you're trying to do stuff, you're trying to work remotely and the kids are home, there's always something that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, there's always something.
So I'm like very into my presentation. I'm going over my HR dashboard and my fancy metrics, and I'm not paying attention to the actual camera screen, right? Because it's on a different screen. I'm focusing on my slides, and I hear a shh in the background of me. But once again, I'm in the fucking zone. I am
Nobody's bugging
in
you.
to my metrics.
No distractions.
Okay, and then I hear someone unmute and go, "Jamie, what's that behind you?" And so then I turn around. My youngest, who was 5 at the time, he's now 6, was in an inflatable T-Rex costume behind me dancing. Didn't even notice. People start coming off mute, like hyperventilating from laughing so hard. So it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. We all laugh. We think it's hilarious.
What a time, bro. What a time, man. Like,
here we are. This has been it's hard to believe that everything we've accomplished in 100 episodes, podcasters of the year, we've rubbed elbows and had honest conversations with the world's leading researchers on the subject of remote work. We have become the voices of remote work.
Oh, Rick, did you just coin that? Are we the voices of remote work, Rick? Holy shit. Man, the stories, I just got to say thank you, brother. The 100 episodes, it's been amazing. Couldn't have found anybody better than my homie Rick from another mother. And
we're successful now.
It's been a super fun ride. Can't wait to see what we have lined up next. But 100 episodes, baby. 100. We did it.
Eat that, Coach Price. I actually amounted to something.
Oh, take that. Take that. Oh, man.
Coach.
Hey, we love you all.
Love to everybody.
See you on the other side. Peace.
Peace. You've been listening to Remotely One. Visit us at remotely1.com/podcast for upcoming episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our episodes on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, don't forget to clock out.